All right, one more try. There you go. We're on. Okay, let me just check this one last thing. Okay, done. Haha. Good evening, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. Happy midday. Happy Sunday. Hey, Dr. Lowe. Hello. Um, yes, it's the middle of the night. I did say we would do midnight, maybe even a few midnight lives at some point because we're doing them at different times of the day. And it's Friday. It's the beginning of the weekend. It's the beginning of the weekend. Weekend and end of the week are not the same thing, but it's the beginning of the weekend. And yeah, well, Friday night is a good night to be late, don't you think? For many of us, because many of us don't work on Saturday or we have an easy time on Saturday. I know a friend right now who's traveling for work in France and got to bed late, had too much Bordeaux, and got to bed late. And is going to be sleeping late tomorrow morning and doesn't usually sleep late. But that's the weekend for you. So, anyway, I'm Shirley Osborne. Thank you for being on. And this is day number 10 of our 28 days of lives for February. And we're doing them again. Let me just say, we're doing them at odd times, at different times of the day, so that we can reach different people. In any case, if you can't get on live, they're all posted on my social media. And I use Restream, so I have everybody that I'm on. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Those are the ones that I use, and you can watch the replay on all of them and any of them if you're not able to see it live, and they're all on there in chronological order. And I'm having fun with the Instagram because there's this really really cool graphic I have for Elevation 2023. This amazing pair of green shoes that I bought some years ago, Alexander McQueen's, with green suede and the skull, the head on the front. I use those because the theme for Elevation is stepping up. And stepping up, one of the easiest ways to do it, to step up, is to put on the right shoes and just step up and step out. And I'm a shoe fanatic. I just love shoes. And I saw these amazing green shoes and I just had to have them. Just had to have them. And what's really cool about green is that green also is a national color of my little island. My little island that some people call the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean, where we lush and green like many other Caribbean islands, almost all other Caribbean islands actually. But there's history there that, you know. But anyway, I bought these fabulous green shoes and they're perfect for this particular thing. And the Instagram, I'm using them and having really, really a lot of fun. So anyway, go check out the Instagram. And if you're not watching it on Instagram, as you are, Dr. Lowe, check it out and see my fabulous green shoes. I probably will wear them on All Year's Night. Actually, that's a good idea. Maybe I shall wear green. Although All Year's Night, red. New Year's Day, red is the lucky color for New Year's Day. Red dress with green shoes. Can't go wrong, I don't think. Well, anyway, welcome to tonight. Tonight it's day number 5 in the week, and we're talking about the fifth item, the fifth section, the fifth segment, or the fifth principle of Elevation 2023, which is relationships. And the question we're asking today is, who do you love? Who do you love? Maybe it should be whom. I love him or I love her. So whom do you love? But who do you love? You know that song? And it's an important question. And many of us, I can almost guarantee that every single person, you ask them a question, who do you love? And they'll begin with, I love my husband, I love my wife, I love my mother, I love my child, I love my... And you seldom, well, actually, I've never heard anyone, and I've asked this question in trainings for years now, and not once in all these years have I ever had anyone begin with, I love me. They will say it eventually. They do say it eventually. Some of them, not all, sadly. But I have yet to heard anyone the first time. Because after you ask them, when they know the game, of course, the first thing they do is they say, I love me. But when they don't know the game, they always begin with their love for someone else. I remember doing a training in New York some years ago, and we did this exercise. We did this exercise where we had to all imagine that we were on a ship, and the ship was sinking, and we could save 5 people. You could save 5 people, and we had to go around the room and give these little popsicle sticks to each of the 5 people that we were going to save. And most people gave away all 5, including me. I gave away all 5 of my sticks because I don't know that I thought about, initially anyway, I don't think that I thought about, if I'm not on the lifeboat, I am going to go down with the ship, which means I'm going to drown, I'm going to die, I'm going to end up at the bottom of the ocean. That did not really occur to me in my initial analysis. And so I gave away all 5 of my popsicle sticks. And then my senior had a moment with me and she hauled me all over the carpet. I mean, if you give away your life, if you give away your chance at life to somebody else, what happens to what you are supposed to do here was the ultimate question. And why would you give away your chance at life to somebody else? Do you love someone's life more than you love your life? And ultimately, do you love someone else, anyone else, more than you love yourself? And of course, that's a question we get asked over and over and over again in all kinds of ways. There are all kinds of games and trainings and so on that ask, if you had to choose between this, that, and the other person, who would you choose? You're made to choose between your mother and your daughter, your father and your husband, your best friend and your mom, all kinds of weird. I find them very unfair, to tell you the truth. Those ones, I find them very unfair. Exercises like the lifeboat exercise are eye-opening, because my argument with my senior was that when there's one particular guy who worked with disadvantaged boys who had been exposed to violence and who lived lives of violence and so on. And I thought it important that he live. Of course, he had to live because he had to continue this work. And so my senior guy, oh, what about your work? Who's going to do your work? Well, I'm okay. I'm fine with dying. It also was a time in my life when I really would have been fine with dying. I wasn't suicidal or anything, but it's just that I was in such a dark place. I was in such a dark place. I wasn't planning to die. I wasn't making any moves to kill myself or anything. That thought had not occurred to me. But it was clear that if I died, then, I'd be fine with that. I had lost, just in the recent years, my grandmother, some friends, really, really close friends. And that also was, I'd lost my little island. This little island that I talked to you about was in the early stages of the what we call the volcanic crisis. Our volcano had begun to erupt, and my country was in turmoil. My little island was in turmoil, and I was distressed, to put it nicely, and really not sure what life would hold for me. I had the confidence that if I were alive, if I were to stay alive, I could eventually, but good Lord, why does it have to be so difficult right now? And then with so many people leaving me, the question was, yeah, why? What the hell? What is the point? That was my constant question for years. What is the point? Show me a point. Give me a reason. And my senior said to me, the only reason you need is you. The only reason you need is you. Hey, Castro. How do you do? I do well. Thank you. How are you? The only reason you need for your life is you. And that's a hard one because, especially for women, we are taught that we are here to serve others. We are taught that our primary job on this world, in this life, is to serve others. Parents, spouses, partners, children, colleagues, community, to serve. And so, hey Max, hey Maxine, and um, and so we think first of those. Now, I am one of those women who was brought up not to feel I was meant to serve that way. My parents taught me that no, you're going to live your own life, make your own decisions, and you get a partner, it'll be on equal terms, etc. My mother was adamant about that. And my father, like I said, I've said before, my father learned pretty early on that, yeah, the world is not, no, it's not a man's world. We do this in halves. We do this in partnership. Hey there, thank you for coming on. And so I grew up with parents who taught me that I was, even as a girl, I meant to be independent and autonomous and have agency and make my own decisions and so on. So I wasn't brought up with the intention that I was to serve. My mother used to say, I didn't want children. I didn't want children. She had 4. She ended up having 4, but she didn't want children. Her decisions about her life did not initially include children. She made the decision later on, actually, made it 4 times at least. So so something changed in her, in that part of her decision, but her insistence on her sovereignty, her personal sovereignty, never wavered. So with children, husband, whatever, she organized her life so that she lived the life that she wanted. My mother had 4 children, young children, and she needed to go to teachers training college. She organized her children and her husband, and she went off to teachers training college. My mother had things to do. She'd pack us all in the car and take us, or tell us, stay home, get a book and read. I'll be back in 2 hours. She organized her life so she could do what she needed to do. So in a sense, she did her serving, if you will, and served herself. So she did not deny herself for somebody else, which is what women are so often taught to do. And all of this teaching about other people and our responsibility to other people reinforces, and in many ways, in many instances, says exactly that. You are not the most important person in your life. And when you make moves, when women make moves, self-love moves, we get castigated and reprimanded in all kinds of ways. I got called selfish once because I said I don't want children. I got told that I was selfish because you're a girl, you're a woman, you're supposed to have children. What's wrong with you? I have friends who say, I'll never get married. I don't want to get married. I don't want to hand my life over to, I want to. And they get the same response. It's okay for men can live to 109 and not even ever consider getting married, and they continue to be the gay bachelors. A woman, a girl grows up and decides not to get married. In China, she gets pushed out by her family. She gets so much pressure that sometimes she's forced to marry. There's a story in social media just a few weeks ago about this bride, this woman in China, this young girl who felt so forced by pressures, not just in her family, but her community. Said, but you're a girl, you're in your 20s, you're supposed to be getting married. You cannot not be getting married. And so she agreed to get married. And then the wedding just broke down because she just didn't want to be married. And she was doing this not for her, not for love of herself and this man she was marrying, but because because she was serving the requirements of the community. And so when I ask, who do you love? The first person that you really should say is, I love me. Unapologetically, I love me. And I love you. And my loving me does not in any way, shape, or form take away from my love. Quite the opposite. quite the opposite. The more I love me, truly love me, the better, the deeper, the wider, the more strongly I can love you or anybody else. Fact. And if I don't love me, I cannot love you. I might need you. I might be needy. I might be needy. And that sometimes masquerades as love. It ain't. It's not. It's insecurity and fear and need. When we love ourselves, we don't need people. And I did one of my coaches and I had some arguments and discussions, deep discussions. It's howling outside like a hurricane. It's rain and wind, and it's gonna stop in a minute. Um, we had some deep discussions about this issue. Because self-love, loving yourself, is considered selfish. And I was having a hard time reconciling all of these things that were coming up in my life at the time about who I should love and how I should love and whether I should love me and all of those. And it happens, it's something that happens so often with women, with women. It is not selfish. It is absolutely not selfish. To the degree that you love yourself, you're able to love somebody else. To the degree that you are confident that you are worthy, period, not worthy of love, but just worthy, then you're not afraid. You're not afraid that you will not be loved. You're not resistant to love because you can handle it. You can both give it and take it. When you love yourself, the confidence that comes from that is a deep, but it's invaluable. Actually, it has no value. It is beyond valuable. It is immeasurable in terms of value. Love for yourself, and this love for ourselves is something that we grow into, and sadly, especially for girls, our experiences along the way militate against our loving ourselves because we hear, you're not smart enough. Boys are smarter. Boys are stronger. Men are better at leadership. Power is for men. Men do maths better. Men do this, that, and the other better. Men play golf better. I mean, come on, seriously. I remember reading once, and I laughed, but it was actually quite ridiculous. But I read that one of the reasons why women cannot play golf as well as men is because they have breasts that restrict how they can limit how they can swing their arms. And there are stories, myth perhaps, about women warriors of yore who, the Amazons, one group of Amazons, because it's got to the point where Amazons are any group of women who are strong warriors. One group of Amazons who removed one breast, and I can't remember which one it was, whichever, because you had to carry the bow and the arrows and whatever, and they removed the one breast to make it easier to pull the bow so the breast wouldn't get in the way. Right? It's ridiculous. So our physiology, they even use our physiology against us. So we grow up with all these things, and a lot of them are conflicting messages, because on the one hand, we hear that breasts are so feminine and so much and so beautiful and all that, and they're necessary to raising children and so on, but they are also what impede our ability, what inhibit our ability to be fully human, because it boils down to that. And actually, that's one of the arguments in favor of FGM, which is female genital mutilation. It's that the women's body, the female body, is an incomplete male body, and therefore the genitals need to be um, remodeled, to put it nicely, remodeled, so that, because of course, having the genitals that we have is a deficiency. All of these messages and more, all of them work against women, and they intended to. It's not by accident. And so women, girls grow up with all these messages that say that you're not really not worthy, there's nothing much to you. You're not enough, you're not as much as, you're less than. And all women get that message. Some women are lucky that they also get the countering messages, enough of them to really counter those others. The point is that once you get the message, once you begin to go, well, really, you begin to doubt yourself. When you doubt yourself, you're loving yourself less. You're loving yourself less. The reality, though, my darlings, is that to the extent that we love ourselves, and only to that extent, are we capable of loving others. And love is a necessary, very necessary. Love is essential to life. Love is essential. And so, if we want a life that is full of love, we have to be intentional about creating it, just like everything else. I hear people talk about falling in love and having no control. I no, I disagree. I read the science. I read about hormones and pheromones and things that attract us to one another and so on. But I also know that we have a brain, we have logic, we have a heart, we have reason. And love is an active verb. It's a verb of action. I love you, I act out my love. You love me, you act out your love towards me. And there are certain things that are acts of love and some that simply are not. They are not. And when those ones come from someone, that person does not love you. I work with women. I've worked with women for years and years, and women and girls who have been abused in all kinds of ways in relationships that are supposed to be loving relationships, everything from parents to siblings to partners. They're supposed to be loving relationships. And they're some of the most painful, the most dangerous, most horrid relationships that these people have had. And that those experiences teach them that they are not lovable. And very often, too often, they actually don't mistake these acts. I've had young women, fortunately not very many, but I've had young women tell me that if he loves me, he'll be jealous. And if he doesn't hit me, it's because he doesn't love me. We are taught that. We are taught that. Violence is a part of love, is an act of love. It ain't. It's not. It is not. Violence is not an act of love. So a person who is violent, whether, oh, hello, Dr. Jackman, thank you for coming. A person who is violent towards you does not love you. And bear in mind, if we bring it back, an easy way to explain this is let's talk about parenting. It is the job of parents to prepare children for productive, constructive adulthood. And it means guiding them. Hey, it means guiding children and teaching children and saying no and setting them straight and sometimes being firm with them and teaching them a lesson and causing them pain sometimes, not necessarily physical pain, but causing them pain. You say no. And sometimes you have to say no. It's not just no, darling. No. Sometimes you have to be really, really firm with the no. And you get responses that might sound violent. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, for example, Um, yeah, the difference between that and pounding the dickens out of a woman you love, or a parent who just beats a child. I'm human. We're all humans. And my mother slapped me enough times. My mother and my father both have slapped me enough times for me to know that there is pain. There is pain that's inflicted on you, and then there's violence that's inflicted on you. Okay? I know the difference. I know the difference. And I'm talking about that difference. So I know what I mean, and you know what I mean when I say violence is not an act of love. If you have friends, relationships, let's put it this way, in which the other person is consistently belittling you, putting you down, that's a kind of violence. It's verbal violence, let's call it that. It's oral violence. They put you down. You know, they're demeaning and belittling, and they make sarcastic and snide remarks about you and the things that you accomplish. I remember a former friend, of course, telling me once that she's going to have to think about who her friends are, and she'll let me know. And I thought, but sure, we've been friends since we were very young. What the hell is this? And then she had further conversation. I got the drift. I got the drift. And so I allowed her to just leave me off your list. You know, I assisted her actually. I assisted her in getting me off your list. Baby, let's not do that. Okay? Because I love myself. I love myself enough to not need someone to assess me, someone I've known forever and ever and ever, to assess me um, based on the criteria she was using. So I'd let, go ahead. We have partners who shove and push. Those are pretty easy to recognize. Shoving and pushing and hitting and beating and throwing up against the wall. That's pretty clear. That's not an act of love. And so when we continue to love, when we continue in relationship with these people, when we say we love these people, we really don't. Because if we had loved ourselves, we would not be allowing this to happen. We would have the strength, the confidence in ourselves to say, no, I will not be treated like that. Now, again, let me reiterate that these feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness, they come to us from our experiences also. They're not logically thought out. I feel unworthy, therefore I will let this person treat me like this. It's not like that. Which is why it requires work. It requires assessment, analysis, thought, application. It needs to be addressed. We need to be educated and coached and supported through these. And we all have some elements of that. We all feel a little bit uncertain and inadequate sometimes. So I'm talking about when this is a constant state of our being. Yeah? When we feel like that, we are missing the love. We are missing love for ourselves. And therefore, our primary responsibility is to learn to love ourselves. I'm always encouraged and gladdened when I hear someone say, so and so is inviting me out and I want to go on a date, but I'm not ready for a relationship again yet. I just finished. I want to take some time and think through this a little bit. Let me think about how I love myself. Let me think about how I feel about myself and whether I'm ready to be in a relationship with someone else. And if so, how? What will be the quality of that relationship? How will I be in relationship with this person? And all of that is a function of how I am with myself. So when I love myself first and I treat myself with love, I am then capable of loving someone else. Otherwise, it's all kinds of other things, but it's not real love. And so the loving ourselves brings me back, talking about that brings me back to one of the foundational tenets of all of this work that we're doing in Elevation 2023, examining ourselves, getting to know ourselves, getting to understand the reasons why we are lovable, why we are lovable, our skills, gifts, talents, abilities, all of those things, and the simple fact that there is not now, never has been, and never, ever will be in all of time and space another you, another me, another him, another her. Never, never. That alone makes us worthy of all that is good in the world. That alone makes us worthy. And when our experiences diminish that, and we are lucky enough to know or to come across the lessons, the people, the teachers, the guides, the coaches, the lovers who will teach us, who will bring us through that, it's a beautiful thing, a really beautiful thing. In all of this, as we think about all of these, the guides, the teachers, the lovers, the coaches, the parents, the whoever, as we think about all of these people and how we love them and how we want to love them, the first question to go back to is, how do I love myself? The question we ask tonight is, who do you love? And we're ending it by saying, who? First of all, I love me. I love me. Me. I love me, Shirley Osborne. And I love my mother, love my father, love my sister, love my husband, love my, you go on and on and on and on. But you start with me. Don't be afraid to do that. Actually start practicing it. Ask yourself. I'm sure you've had people ask, who do you love? Do you love me? You've had, little boys ask girls, do you love me? And you say yes, and I love myself. Ask yourself this. Give yourself an exercise every day for the next 7 days. Every day for the next 7 days, look yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, who do you love? Who do you love? And your answer must begin with, I love me. You know how you do the gratitude journal, you list a number of things that you're grateful for? Try that exercise, except you're doing it in terms of who you love. Who do you love? And list 10 people that you love, or 5, or 3. But begin with, I love me. Stand in front of your mirror, look yourself in the eye and say, who do you love? Not who's the fairest of them all. Same kind of thing, really, yeah? It's the same thing, the same principle. But who do you love? Who do you love? And make sure that you begin with, I love me. And then give yourself another 5, 10, 15, however many names you want. But start with, I love me. What will happen is that as you say that, the thoughts that will come to you, about how you love these other people. When you say, I love me, and I love John, I love James, I love Mary, I love Sally, I love Cassandra, I love Henry, I love Femi, I love Crazy, I love... And at some point in the exercise, the first, the second, third, might be the 5th day, you're going to come to, I love James. Do I love James? Why do I love James? Oh, I love Sandra? Really? Do I really love Sandra? You'll find that happening, and it's a beautiful thing. Go with it. Ask yourself the question. Let the question come. Let the question ask itself, and respond if you want. If you don't want to, don't. But once the question pops up, accept the question. So enough for our Friday night midnight live. People are up late. I love it. Thank you for being on here with me. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, those of you who are in the same time zone as I am, sleep well, enjoy your night, rest well. Others of you, have a pleasant morning, afternoon, lovely Saturday, all that cool stuff. All right? I'll see you tomorrow. Take good care.